my name is Jacqueline Peterson. Most of you know me, I hope. Have spoken to me on the phone, have called at the office, have emailed with me. So I'm sure that now you've put a face to the name. I am the fieldwork supervisor at the Department of Statistics. I've been working with the department for the last 7 years. I started back in 2007 when it was just two of us. When we were then the Central Bureau of Statistics, the main office was based in Curacao. We had our sub-office here in St. Maarten. And we've grown a lot since then, as McKinney showed you a little bit earlier. Now I have a whole bunch of colleagues that I harass every day, but that's okay, they love me still. Tonight we'll give you a short presentation on the business cycle survey, what we do, what a questionnaire looks like, what the selection process is for the business cycle survey. Please bear with me. I'm a little sick, so if you don't hear me too well, just let me know and I'll repeat myself. The business cycle survey is a survey that is conducted twice a year. The aim is to collect up-to-date information on a regular basis about the business and economic developments within the industries falling in the non-financial sector on St. Maarten. Additionally, the survey provides information on entrepreneurs' expectations and opinions of the related year. Since the time that I've been doing the field work, I have seen the response rate decline, and that is why I am glad that we are here this evening and have a chance to explain the questionnaire and the selection criteria to you. The companies that we select are based on the size of the companies. Once your company has 10 employees or more, you are already always in the selection process. That don't mean you have to go and fire people tomorrow. Please don't do that. Hold on to your employees. For those companies that have less than 10 employees, we have a selection process that we do. It is a 4-year on, 4-year off selection process. So for 4 years, you are selected in the sample. Once you fill in a questionnaire for 4 consecutive years, you get out of the sample for 4 years, and then you come back in for 4 years again. The reason why we do this is because the larger companies have a bigger impact on our economy, and we must capture the data. So the smaller companies, because of the fact that they don't have as much of an impact on the economy, we have the 4-year on, 4-year off rotation. And to minimize that fluctuation is the reason why we do that. The sample size that we use for our business cycle is of 550 companies each year. 450 of those companies, we have interviewers that we send out into the field, and they visit those companies. 100 of those companies are then sent emails. I know a couple of my email persons sitting in the audience tonight. They get emails from me, and then they fill in the questionnaire, and then they send it back to me. As I mentioned before, the survey is conducted twice a year. The first survey is conducted in May, and then the second one is conducted in October. This gives us a quick impression of how the industries are performing and what are the confidence levels. The first survey in May is based on the first 6 months of the year, so from January to June. Because the questionnaire is based on estimates and we start in May, there's no reason for you to wait until after June is finished to fill in a questionnaire. You can just take 1 month or 2 months and give us an estimate for the whole 6 months. The questionnaire is very simple. As you notice, the first page, the company just has to fill in the block that says company with the company name and address and the contact person with the phone numbers. That section is, as McKinney mentioned before, we keep that updated in our statistical business register so that we have, each time we have updated information for that particular company. So every time you get it, you just make sure you have that filled in so we have the correct information for you, that if we have to get in contact with your company, we have the right person on the phone that we have to speak to. As I said, the questionnaire has 5 questions to it. The first half year is 5 simple questions. The first question is based on the business activity for the company, and it's asking you for your estimated gross turnover, and it's based in thousands of guilders, and it's based in Antillean guilders. So you just give me an estimate for the first 6 months of the year, how much you think the company would gross for the first 6 months in thousands of guilders. The second question is compared to the first 6 months of the year before. If you think the percentage would be higher or lower, and if it's the same, you just enter zeros. And then the next question is if you expect any profit. Very simple. The next question is if you think you're going to have any fixed assets. It's all simple yes or no questions. If you say no, you can skip it, you go to the next question. If you said yes, if you have any obstacles, what the obstacles are. By this question, you have to just pay keen attention that we are asking you to rate it by 1, 2, and 3. So no X's, no check marks, just simple. What is the most important, the second most important, the third most important? And it's very simple. Yeah? The next question is if your investments have been influenced positively, yes or no. If it's no, you skip to the next question. If it's yes, the same option, 1, 2, or 3. What are the 3 most important reasons? The third question is the amount of persons on your payroll. I have 2 options. The persons that are on your payroll that you, yourself, the company runs the payroll for, that you give pay slips to. And the second option is those people that are not on your payroll, whether they're family members, non-paid personnel, or persons from employment agencies. And you just put in the amount there. The next question then is, again, opinion-based questions. We just ask you to make one selection on a domestic level, if it has improved or remained the same, and on an international level. If your company is solely based on St. Maarten, you just put not applicable, and it's already done. Yeah, and then on the last question, again, it's an opinion question based on how do you think the economy compares, if you have confidence in the future, and your investment climate. Simple, just choose one, and that's that. Literally took me no more than 2 seconds to get through it. And that's how fast the questionnaire goes. The second survey, that is in October, is a little bit longer because based on the second survey, we do the estimated GDP for the year. The first page is the same as before. Again, just fill in the block the company information. The only difference with this questionnaire is by question number 1, it's a little bit longer because we're asking you now to give us your export. If you have any turnover that you export to the foreign countries, your estimated production in units, and the production in units is based on the what your company produces. So if you have a hotel, it's the amount of rooms that you rent. If you have a car rental agency, it's the cars that are rented. If you have a bakery, it's the amount of goods that you make. So that is the production in units. The next question is the estimated cost of sales, and then your estimated costs. So what you think the costs are going to be to run your company. And then if you expect the profit, is it going to be positive or negative? And then we have an opinion question. The rest of the questions are basically all the same. We ask you again the investments, whether you're going to make investments, if it's going to be influenced positively, negatively. Yeah. We ask the same questions about the employees. And then the only question is that this one has question number 6, and this is a question about your expectations for next year. And basically, this question is just, if you think for next year, what are you going to do? Am I going to make investments next year? Am I going to hire more people next year? Is it going to be any better? What do I think about the investment climate for next year? And basically, those 2 questions is going to be like 1 minute longer than the questionnaire before. And that is the difference between those 2 questionnaires. And that is as simple as the business cycle is. As you can see, I stood here in 2 minutes. I was done with the explanation, and that's as easy as it is. So please understand, the questionnaires is based solely on estimates, and there's no need to send them to your accountants. These can easily be filled in by the manager, the owner, the office manager, the person who's in charge of entering your daily accounts in the system. You can take 1 month, as I said before, as a basis and use it for 6 months. You can use 6 months and do the calculation for a year, or you can use a quarter calculated for the half year or the whole year. The only things I ask you to pay attention to when you have the form in front of you is that make sure that your information is in guilders, that your figures are divided by 1,000, that it's all based on estimates, so you don't need to wait until the end of the time period to fill it in, and that the owner, the business owner, the manager, or the accountant, the person who fill in the daily accounts can fill it in, but the opinion questions has to be done by the owner of the company, because we're asking the opinions of the person who owns the business. So it's the business owner's opinion and their confidence in the economy and future who has to fill in those questions. So based on that fact, that a questionnaire only has 5 questions for the half year, that a whole year questionnaire only has 6 questions, that is based on estimates, that you yourself as owner or manager can fill it in, that a time frame is only 6 weeks to fill in the form. We also have the interviewers who bring the forms to you. They're tasked with, trained to fill in the forms with you. So if you have any questions and you don't know how to fill in the form or you don't have the time to fill it in, the interviewer will sit with you, take their time and help you fill in the form, and you can make a copy and they will bring a copy back to the office. For the companies that are on my email list, you can send me an email or you can call me at the office and we will make arrangements and we will have someone come and have the forms filled in with you. The results are meant to be quick and to give a general impression of how the economy is performing at a given moment and is focused on the estimations rather than real figures. And it allows STAT to obtain some indicators on how the economy is performing in a relatively short period of time. This is in contrast to the National Accounts Survey, which has a 6-month-long data collection period and is based on actual financial figures. But like the National Accounts Survey, the Business Cycle Survey participation is also mandatory and is stipulated in the Statistical Ordinance AB 2013 GT number 450. The data you provide to us is not only discussed during the quarterly Economic Monitoring Committee meeting, but is also taken into account when calculating the gross domestic product. Non-participating in the survey affects the accuracy of the gross domestic product, which is not only nationally but also internationally important, as it is one of the measurements that determine economic prosperity and international aid.
I was deceived about the nature of my job. I was threatened with violence. I worked excessive days and hours, and money was withheld from me. My boss has no respect for the labor laws. All my documents were confiscated as I was confined and isolated. Now that you know, what will you do?
You can help by calling Immigration and Border Protection at 543-0355 or send email to nachicotip@gmail.com. Human trafficking and exploitation. Please report it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. As a senior researcher for economic statistics, I'm tasked with compiling national account statistics and also analyzing the results of the business surveys, namely the one Jackie just presented and the one I will be presenting, the National Accounts Survey. Within the process of calculating national accounts statistics, which is mainly calculating the GDP of St. Maarten. I am responsible for the government sector, and also I'm responsible for integrating all the different sectors at the end of the process. For the next few minutes, I would like to tell you about the National Account Survey, which is the second survey, business survey that we have at STAT. And perhaps some of you are familiar with the survey, especially if you're in a company with more than 10 employees. But what I think you don't know about the survey, and what I think that you absolutely should know, is the importance of the survey. And this is what I want to stress this evening by telling you what the survey is and basically what we do with the data that we collect from you. You might know it as the annual report questionnaire, as it's commonly called, the National Account Survey. And it is used to collect key economic data from businesses and organizations in the private sector. And with this information, we are able to compile regular statistics to tell us how our economy is doing. So by means of this survey, we collect financial data from businesses, and basically we will be able to give a good picture of our local economy, which is always important. We usually get questions, but why do we collect this information? Well, the data collected is used for national accounting purposes, and it is basically help us measure the economic activity of a nation. You see, every country, every country needs to know how their economy is performing. Are we doing good? Are we doing bad? Are we doing better than last year? And those important questions are answered by our National Account Survey, because this is the primary source for calculating our GDP, which is the gross domestic product. And it's one of the most frequently used indicators internationally to tell you the health of the economy and to be able to compare it with different countries and different islands. Now I just want to tell you a little about GDP itself. I won't get too technical, but GDP measures all the output carried out by all firms, nonprofit institutions, government bodies, and households over a specific time period. So we are talking about the production of all small, medium, and large firms in the economy. We basically have to determine the value added created by all these different institutions, and of course add in a little bit of information from administrative sources, and we would be able to get the GDP. So when I say institutional units and all entities, I really want to stress that, because we include banks, information from financial intermediaries, from the government, and also from nonprofit organizations. And I need to stress that it doesn't really matter if you are a nonprofit organization, because we often get the questions, but I'm a nonprofit organization, why do I have to respond? Or I am the only person working at this business, I'm small and it's not relevant. And that is absolutely not true. To that I say, once you are producing goods or producing services, you are in some type of way contributing to the economy, and therefore you too should be included in the GDP calculation. And basically this is the main goal of National Accounting Survey, to collect this information to be able to compile vital statistics about the economy. So now that you understand how important this survey is for our GDP calculations and our national accounting, I would like to spend the rest of the time to tell you about the survey itself. As I've already mentioned, it's an annual survey, and it runs from July to December each year. And I would like to highlight that unlike the business cycle survey, it's based on real figures and not estimates. So we do ask you to have your financial statements ready, because the questions on the survey relates to turnover and income, expenses, investments, and also your assets. We do understand that there might be delays in obtaining your financial statements, but we truly would like you to be as timely as possible with responding, because delay in your response delays publishing on our side, and we already have a time lag going on when it comes to producing GDP. So we just ask you to be as on time as possible so that we can minimize the delays in producing the statistics. The National Accounts Survey is a sample survey, and basically we include all companies with 10 or more employees, similar to the business cycle survey. And for companies with less than 10 employees, we take a random sample, and once chosen, you're obliged to respond to the survey for 4 consecutive years. I'd like to stress that the business cycle survey and the National Accounts Survey are 2 different samples. So if you are included in the business cycle survey, it does not necessarily mean that you will be in the National Accounting Survey. Then that holds true for the small and the medium companies. However, if you are in if you are in both of the samples, it does not mean that you're exempt from responding to either one. You're still required to respond to both of them, and it's still mandatory in that case. For the first time this year, we introduced industry-specific questionnaire. So depending on what industry you're operating in, you will receive a questionnaire tailored to that industry. We have in total 7 questionnaires, but you will receive 1, and that all depends on which industry you're participating in. Basically, we have a general form, which is the one on display here, but then we have additional questionnaires for the industries mentioned. The survey is administered by 6 freelance interviewers that we train each time around, and basically they're responsible with delivering the forms to you, providing assistance with completing the forms if that is necessary, and to return the forms to STAT once it's complete and accurately filled in. One concern we usually hear relates to confidentiality, and I think everyone kind of touched up on that already, but you can be sure that we are not sharing this information with anyone. In the statistics ordinance, the same one that states that businesses are obliged to respond to all the surveys and respond truthfully, states that we at STAT are not allowed to share this information with any third parties. What we can do is publish information on an industry level and not on an individual level. So your information is basically safe with us. Lastly, I would like to comment on the standards that we use to collect, analyze, and publish these statistics. Compiling national account statistics is relatively new for STAT. It was the task of the former CBS, but we are definitely determined to provide sound information and reliable information that not only you and St. Maarten can use, but also could be used internationally. And for this, STAT adheres to methods and techniques of the System of National Accounts by the United Nations Statistical Commission. SNA is an internationally accepted set of statistical standards used for compiling national accounts. So the questions that you see, the use of industry-specific questionnaires, the way variables are calculated in the framework of national accounts is all in line with the SNA 2008 by the United Nations. And this is very important because we would then be able to compare our information with other countries. And once we produce this information and we say that we are using the SNA 2008, for instance, then other organizations can feel secure that we are using the same methods as them and our information basically is reliable. So if you are wondering if countries abroad are doing the same thing, I tell you yes. And I would like to also add that their questionnaires are usually much more extensive than ours. So for you, business entities, I know that up-to-date and relevant and reliable information is important. And STAT aims with our business surveys to be able to develop a range of economic statistics that will provide quality information to not only enhance decision-making in the public sector, but also in the private sector for you. I want to thank you for your attention, and I do hope that you now understand the importance of responding to our National Accounts Survey, and the next time that an interviewer shows up at your doorstep, that you will be more than willing to